Today we are dealing with, I think, what is the absolute worst shoaling on the entire ICW right now. There are several spots today that have shoaled to 4 feet, under 5 feet. We draw 4 feet 3 inches. Timing wise, from Steamboat Creek to Beaufort is one of those rare instances where you can actually time it in your favor, where you run with the current most of the day. However, it means that in order to do that, you need to leave Steamboat Creek. If you are like a 5 to 7 knot vessel, you need to leave Steamboat Creek at low tide or within an hour of low tide. So that means that you are potentially hitting some of the beginning parts here, Watts Cut, for example, with less water than it would be ideal. So Watts Cut is about an hour and a half from here. We are leaving at 10 o'clock. Low tide was at 9:30. So we've given ourselves 2 hours of tide by the time we hit Watts Cut. Hopefully that means we have about 2 feet, because it's about 6 feet of tide here. So that should mean that we have about 2 feet of tide in our favor, which means we should have about 6 feet of water, which means we should make it through. The other major spot on the way today is Ashapoo, which is a cut that is also shoaled to about 4 feet low water. We should hit that with plenty of water. Southbound last year, this was the shallowest spot we saw in the whole ICW. I think that it would have been about 3.5 feet. It should be dredged soon, hopefully. I think it's on the list for 2022, but definitely hasn't happened yet, so it's gonna be an adventure today. It's a little bit windy today, but for us that should be just fine. We might actually get a little sailing in. The other thing is that as you enter the, I think it's Dachau River, there's a section where the charts and the navigational aids and everything is going to make it look like you're going over land. You're not going over land. Don't worry about it. If you switch to Aquamaps or you look at the Bob 423 tracks, everybody goes over this section. It is the deepest water here, so don't panic. Before, you were ignoring the ATONs and the charts to get the deepest water, and now you're just ignoring the charts. So hopefully it'll be soon. If you have updated charts, the most recent charts, some of them are showing it correctly now. So there is plenty of water. We've made it through Watts Cut. It was a nail biter that we thought it was going to be. Lowest we saw was 6.2. That 6.2 was actually not in the spot that we thought was going to be the worst. It was down close to the bridge. We saw an average of about 8.5 feet. So it still is definitely shallow. There's no question about it. But it wasn't as bad as we were expecting it to be. I was expecting to be averaging around 6 feet. 6-7 feet, and we definitely saw 7 feet, a decent amount, but we were definitely closer to 8 or 9 most of the time, so that was awesome. But 1 down, 1 to go.
We're coming through the Ashapoo Cutoff. It's a little area they cut between the two rivers, and it is notorious for shoaling. The chart shows 5.5 feet at some of the lowest spots, but luckily we got almost 5 feet of tide with us, so we're in good shape. It's probably not a spot you want to run at low tide. This section is also really narrow, so like literally like 50 feet that way, it's a half a foot deep.
The last couple days, I've been feeling a little burnt out on ICW, and I think it's because we haven't been able to sail at all. And today, we are having like perfect sailing conditions. So we have got the sails up. We're doing like 6.5 knots with just the sails. There's like no waves. We've got about 10 to 15 knots of wind, basically on the beam, and it is absolutely wonderful. And I'm feeling like my cup is filling back up again, so.
We are in Beaufort, South Carolina, not to be confused with Beaufort, North Carolina, spelled exactly the same way but pronounced differently. Took us about 6.5 hours to do the 42 miles to get here because we had the current with us most of the day, which Gwen planned perfectly. And the lowest amount underneath the keel we saw was 2 feet, so that particular spot was around 6 feet deep. Not too bad. We hit all the other problematic shoaling areas at around mid-tide or even high tide. Now we're gonna go take the dog ashore for a nice long walk.
Beaufort is one of our favorite stops on the whole ICW. It has a lot of southern charm, and the green spaces and Spanish moss covered trees make it just as beautiful as it is inviting. The food here is also fantastic. Our personal favorite is the Low Country Provisions for brunch. The crab hush puppies and the ooey gooey burger are super tasty.
While we're here in Beaufort, in this protected anchorage with no wind today, this would be a good day to get our radar installed. Now to start this project, I removed the access plate on the bottom of the mast that lets you look inside. The previous owners, Steve and Janice, are extremely nice people and left a messenger cord for me to pull the radar cable through the mast. So inside the mast, there's a aluminum tube that goes all the way to the top, and then there's another aluminum tube, PVC pipe that's riveted to the mast that was installed at a later date that goes up to the spreader lights and where the radar used to be. So there's already conduit in the mast for those wires, and inside that conduit is run this rope. So all I have to do is go up, attach my wire to that end of the conduit, and then have Gwen down here, pull it through as I feed it in from the top. That is maybe what we're gonna do today. But first, we're gonna go up and rivet on the mounting plates. So last year when I was helping a rigger climb his mast in Indiantown, he was the slip over from us, he gave me some really good advice, and that was never climb on a splice. So you never want to connect like the shackle to your harness. You want to tie a known good knot, which in this case is a figure 8. A known good climbing knot, because you don't know who made this splice. If they're dumb, an idiot, did it wrong, because like this could fall out and you could die. And then promptly he went up on his own splice because he said he did it and it was good.
Classic rigger.
In classic rigger fashion. Gave me some really good advice and then promptly didn't follow it. Yeah, so I'm gonna climb up the mast using a spinnaker halyard. And then Gwen's gonna tail me using the main halyard on this winch. So. Bottom of the radar. Massive 12mm bolts for something that weighs 6 pounds. I don't know. This bracket is considerably less complicated than the old one.
Yeah, it seems like it.
Yes.
It
And
seems
this
like it's like
should definitely clear the mast there. Bye-bye.
Was there concern about that? Was there concern
They're
about
going to be real tight right there. Use a proper torque wrench. So this is the harness that goes through the mast. And because I had it installed on a much smaller deck-stepped boat, it's this long. But it needs to be much longer. But me being the pack rat I am, I kept the cable I cut off.
Of course you did. Of course you did.
Are you mad?
No, because it probably saved us what?
200 bucks. Because this is a wireless radar and not one of those fancy digital or wired radars. All that goes up there is 2 power wires and a shield. So easy to splice. Okay, mounts are bolted on. That worked perfectly, thank you, honey. That's all you should see.
Where's the other one? There's only one.
Can you pull on it? What?
Is that it?
Yeah?
There's only one rope sticking out,
Yeah?
and when I pull it, nothing happens.
Oh, I must have pulled it too hard and pulled it up a little bit. Can you look inside the hole and see if you can see it? You got it? Okay, start pulling gently. Okay, stop. Stop.
You know, before I had to stick your hand wouldn't have fit up there. You wouldn't have been able to grab it.
But were we able to just grab like the tiny end of it?
I had to like stick my hand like up.
Up the PVC?
Your fingers would have fit.
Oh, but that went beautifully. I could not have asked that to go any better.
Okay, what now?
Next, we mount the radar up.
Okay.
And it's not crooked.
And it's not crooked. That's exciting.
So now in Beaufort.
Nope.
All right, we're here in Beaufort.
Beaufort.
We're here in Beaufort, South Carolina, not to be confused with Beaufort, North Carolina.
Nope. Beaufort, North Carolina.